Trey, Foe, 711, The Deuce and the Nine. Hoover, hey, culture enthusiasts. I'm Big Bubble, your host and executive producer Under the Groove Podcast, The Hoover Story. I want to welcome everyone to the introductory episode of Under the Groove, where everything about Hoover's history is under this groove. Let me begin first by saying, because of the layout of the program I'll be presenting to you, who I am and my role in Hoover Story will come into play after the story of those who came before me is told. Until then, the goal is to have as many of you out there as possible not only hit that like button and follow Under the Groove low, but to subscribe as well to the Hoover Story as we relate our history. The more subscribers, well, y'all know how this shit goes better than me, man. The more in-depth and enlightening this groove becomes. So smash that like, follow, and subscribe button to come along on this fantastic journey with us, all right? All right, I'm here, man, to navigate everyone through this groovy process in order for us to reach each destination on this journey. The first destination on the itinerary is, what is Under the Groove? Well, Under the Groove is a vibe that's almost indescribable and yet understood amongst us, you know? It's this thing that's intangible, though it's grasped mentally. It's a sixth sense, the proprioception of one's body as he or she grooves within the flow of daily life. It's balance. It's the Hoover stomp, lockstep within the rhythm that comes naturally to those who are true under its groove. It's our DNA, genetic information transmitting coded instructions needed for Hoover to survive, to develop, and to produce under any and all circumstances. Under the Groove is Hoover Joe, and all those that followed in the likeness of him, and all those that followed in the likeness of them. Under the Groove is this universe we created that contains galaxies and solar systems held together because of the weight of our gravity. Under the Groove is an energy that eclipses all others, man. Under the Groove is what that Hoover like to each and every one every day. Under the Groove is, it's our unity. It's our glued togetherness when everyone else around us is striving to tear us apart. Under the Groove is knowing that no matter what though, we're still groovy like a drive-in movie. Under the Groove is one nation under this groove, grooving in a nation that's strong. That's, a Hoover acronym created in the 90s, GIANTS. So under this groove, man, we be giants. We be giants, man. That's just some of what Under the Groove is, or what it may mean to some of us. For me, that speaks to it, That's what Under the Groove means to me, So, hey, man, Hoovers who are destined to stop here and grace this podcast with their presence, we'll share with y'all other aspects of what Under the Groove means to them. But in the meantime and in between time, I want to share with y'all the motivation for creating this podcast. It's probably due to the overwhelming interest from you guys, culture enthusiasts, and the public. You guys want to know more about the Hoover Crips. But more so, man, it's due to the fact that a great number of Hoovers want the long story groove of the Hoover Crips, its founders, members, notoriety, affiliations, and enemies to be shared. So, hey, death and lifelong prison sentences of many Hoovers play a role in their being unable to contribute now as they once did in the past to the Hoover phenomenon, as well as to the legitimization of this long overdue saga of the hardest, most feared, most hated, yet respected by gangbangers and the authorities alike, infamous Crip gang to ever exist. Hoovers who are retired, inactive, and active deem it their right, man, and responsibility, that is, theirs alone, to tell this story, to share it, to document it, and to speak to it, and speak to the lives and legacies of it. Under the Groove represents the shelter of truth about everything Hoover. This isn't a watered-down version or narrative about Hoovers that most of you are used to or would rather see and hear. This groove is A1, man. It's straight drip and uncut funk, man. It's raw, not stepped on. It's coming only from the miles and recollections of Hoovers who were, who still are, no doubt in the trenches and on the front lines, expanding and representing cripping and criminalism to the fullest, pushing a way of life throughout this country and the world, not only in music, but in trends, in attire, and in culture. So, the desired goal of this podcast is to present a four-phase presentation that addresses four things: the Hoover Story, a cautionary existence, atonement, and who's the real enemy. But first and foremost of this goal is to quash, prevent, and eliminate future attempts of outsiders from speaking on and profiting from the history of the Hoover Crips in or outside this sphere of public knowledge and disinformation. You know, I'm speaking to those YouTubers and so-called social media personalities and influencers, vloggers and bloggers, or anyone who think they want to have a say in what Hoover is or isn't in the culture. Consider where or who you get your info, daily tidbits, your slice of gossip, or the latest on set politics from, man. The majority of the guys y'all listen to who have their noses in Hoover business and other sets politics and gossip and the messy broad behavior of civilians, non-game bangers, straight busters, cops or ops. And they hardly ever give you guys accurate information or accounts on things they call themselves talking about. Most of the crap is watered down with some faulty narrative, all for the sake of you guys' likes, comments, follows, and subscriptions. It gets worse. They know absolutely nothing solid about the content, subject matter on the individuals or the sets they're discussing. Man, that's like me telling you guys the history and activities of the East Coast Crips and what their inner workings are. What the hell can I really tell y'all about 6 Deuce, 6'8", 6'9", 7'6", Q102, or other East Coast Crips sets, and I'm not even from there, man. I have no history there. To make sure that the story is accurate and on point, their history, their story and information would be best told by the East Coast Crips and anybody they collaborate with to tell it, but not me. Because if left up to me, I'd no doubt pass along a gang of misinformation to anyone who listened for the sake of you guys' likes, comments, follows, and subscriptions. This is the problem today, man. Dudes trying to tell a story or share a history about a Hoover or Hoover, and it's never accurate. And there's never a follow-up or part 2 to it. You should wonder why that is. If I were to relate a story involving East Coast Crips, it would only be possible were I there at a particular time or incident with them. I went to school with them. I was in jail and prison with them. I had fights with them and even kicked it with them. You know? Look, man, this platform exists to communicate to the masses the facts about the Hoover story from the mouths of Hoovers, and only from what we know to be our experiences and what's public knowledge. The Hoover Crips history is like no other, man. No outsider can tell this story accurately about us or without us. It's impossible. They weren't ever a part of this groove. We're a phenomenon. We're in a class by ourselves, man. Real spit. And they cannot relate to the phenomena nor grade this class or share it with you if they weren't ever a part of its lessons and teachings. You know? Again, that's like me trying to speak, like say on the East Coast Crips or trying to speak on Islam or something. I ain't never read the Quran like that, man. You know, I'm not a participant in that, you know what I mean? You know? Dudes who do this shit, man, this is their fate. You know what I mean? It's what they live. I can't speak to that, man. You dig what I'm saying? So like I said, man, those straight facts, man. Hoovers have lived this shit. No one else, man. Hoover's existence, man, has spurred the birth of loyal and loved allies, of enemies, of wars, and of so-called hoods. You have all these so-called hoods today because of Hoover Street. They exist in our galaxy, in our solar system. We birthed them, man. That's what Hoover's doing, man. Hoover created this atmosphere, this environment of gang expansion and warfare, much of which I can say we regret and isn't proud of, man. You know, we don't like how this shit going, man, but it is what it is. So when someone get to talking about he or they is the king of LA, don't buy that shit, man. It's crap. It's crap, it's cap, it's a lie. Because Hoover is LA. And no one in our kingdom could be our king, man. If anything, they can be the kings of the haters, but not of Hoover. Never of Hoover. When someone not from Hoover attempts to tell y'all why Hoovers are not Crips, or why Hoovers are criminals, or why Hoovers are the most hated, or why Hoovers are this or aren't this or that, don't buy that shit either, man. Because they don't know. They don't know what we are, man. There hasn't been anything like us in the culture to identify us to or with. They can't speak on us, man. As I said, man, we're a phenomenon, man. We're a phenomenon that they cannot explain. They'll attempt to, as they will attempt to refute what I'm saying now. And try as they may, man. The fact remains that here we continue to stand stronger than ever, in spite of the blowback from mistakes made with other sets that we came up with loving, respecting, and supporting, regardless of their concerted efforts to eliminate us. And against all odds, Hoovers remain to be the force to be reckoned with, man. So, what they do, know that y'all don't, and they're reluctant to tell you guys, is this. If Hoover gets in, Hoover will take over. It's our nature. Again, facts, man. Ask them. Let me let y'all in on something else, man. When the Hoover Crips started, they came together and consisted of the very downest, bravest, daring, crazy, intelligent, and driven black dudes from the east side, the south side, north side, and west side of Los Angeles, South Central, and Compton, California. You dig? The best of the best, man, from everywhere. Hoover to this day, man, are Crips, as well as criminals. And not just 5 Deuce HGCs or Crips, man. Stop listening to these dudes, man. There's one thing that should be noted, which is absent from the majority of exposés done by Hoovers, by these other dudes, and that is this, man. Hoover established a long time ago that what comes first with Hoover is Hoover, not Crip, not criminal. So from 43rd to 112th, it's what that Hoover like. We ain't, what that Crip like and that criminal like, what that Hoover like. That's always first, man. That's really what matters to us. From Hoover's inception to its most storied sub-cliques like Fortray to the One Way, the Hogs from 5 Deuce, the 5 Nines, Nina Rosses, the Fantastics and infamous Bebes from 7-4, the Rascals from 8 Trey, the Dulos from 9 Deuce, the 9-4s Lowdowns, the Salos from 107, and the Laylos from 11 Deuce. Hoover recognizes the need to share and feed the culture this knowledge, our history, in order for everyone to realize our contribution to the culture as much as our contribution in the culture. Whether some of you out there like it or not. So, Hoover has never needed anyone to speak on Hoover for Hoover, man, ever. This is how Hoover do it. And we do it like this so that you know that this is how Hoover did it. We handle our own, trust me. Now, as mentioned, man, the interviews will entail, from beginning to end, each individual's story, experience, regret, and final analysis of the root causes of the predicament they were in over the years as gang members, and who were the winners and losers, So phase 1, telling the Hoover story. We begin with interviewing available founders and first members from Hoover, from 43rd Street to 112th, not in that order, but beginning with where and how the Hoover Crips were conceived and started. We would share their lives and times on Hoover Street by attempting to chronologically and educationally, that means, anytime you put forth information that individuals can learn from or extract lessons from, that's an education, man. By chronologically and educationally sharing their story as a Hoover, starting from their earliest moments of living in Los Angeles, Watts, and Compton, up to the time when they first decided to step off the front porch, into the streets, into the criminal justice system, into the beyond, and into the unknown. You feel me? These stories will resonate with facts that dispel previous rumors and narratives from people who we know not to be under the groove nor have love for it. These stories will grow and meld as each Hoover, in his or her turn, yes, that includes the Hooverlettes, set the record straight on the strength of the Hoover Foundation, its groove, its members, and its principal place in the annals of crippin' and gang culture history, man. Phase 2, cautionary existence. It addresses and confronts the psychological, emotional, and societal experiences that impacted these lives as a result of their gang activity. These experiences, man, harden their souls, as we know the streets is fraught with uncertainty and danger on every corner. Negative experiences, man, sometimes attribute to psychological impediments like depression and anxiety. But they can serve to boost meaning and stimulate comprehension, whereby I think people begin to learn to be more cunning, shrewd, conniving, or deadly, just as a matter of survival in the streets, you know. They learn to trip rather than be tripped on. Their experiences, though, can serve as a warning of how life choices when choosing wrong impacts us most, man. This phase speaks to the pain of time and lives wasted because of moral disengagement. These words are dropped as warnings to avoid the consequences of decisions gone wrong in the streets, in the hopes that they'll be picked up as lessons by the younger generations who tend to think that gang culture and lifestyle is a whole lot of fun when it really isn't. All right? Phase 3 is atonement. And atonement covers individuals' transition from previous mindsets of criminality, treachery, plotting, and death to mindsets of morality, man, of regret, of rebuilding, and reconciliation. Men and women speak of living new lives, of wrestling with themselves about deeds in their past lives. The discussion addresses struggling with past demons or confronting old wrongs that impacted others. The moral compass that guides and validates them today is one that is a testament to the life of peace now. Their atonement is paid towards family, towards community involvement and activism. It's paid through mentorships and towards religious salvation. For some of them, atonement is just being right by their families or by being home and involved with family. You know, for some, man, that's redemption enough. You know what I mean? So listen to the stories as they travel this redemptive road they paved with atonement. Phase 4, who's the real enemy? Those who have really been involved in the gang culture lifestyle have suffered more losses than successes will attest to how they were unwitting participants in the destruction of themselves, others who look just like them, and their communities. Their conclusion that the system plays an unseen hand in the destruction and devastation of lives considered to be of little value is realized in the stories they share of how the system perpetuates and promotes unprecedented levels of racial discrimination, prejudice, injustice, police brutality, social manipulation, self-hate, disenfranchisement, poverty, mass incarceration, drug addiction, and death. This has been occurring, man, way before 1969 and the explosion and expansion of gang activity in Los Angeles, South Central Los Angeles, and even Compton. Their practices have changed and intensified since then. When I say there, I'm talking about those who are in charge, who really run everything, all right? So as the decades changed, they set more detrimental devices and vices in front of us to perpetuate a more deadly atmosphere of self-destruction. Just think about it. One way was through government programs that were stripped away from us or designed to be placed in our communities to devastate us and our communities for the sole purpose of creating and maintaining the status quo of poverty, not only in the environment, man, but also in the minds of black men and women in those areas. And this isn't just in Los Angeles, not just in California, man. The real enemy is he who controls everything. This is all over the country. When we get an understanding of that, of what it's really about, we can then begin to have dialogues that garner and gather understanding of what everybody have been through or what everybody is going through. Not just Hoovers, but everybody, man. You know? So As mentioned, man, this content exists only to shed light on the history of Los Angeles' most notorious Crip gang, bar none, man. Dudes can say what they want, that's their right. But under this groove, we're giving it to you uncut. We're going to let you know what it is and why it is, from Raymond Washington to Tookie Williams to Hoover Joe. We'll let it be known what the story is really about with Hoover. This content and all its episodes will shed light on the history of the Hoover Crips. This stumped down exposure will separate itself from the fake narratives layered in weak rumors and lies, peeled back and dispelled for everyone to see, man. That's how we're going to deliver it. We're going to give it to you like that. We're going to deliver it to you just like that, man. This platform, though, man, it does not exist to reignite old feuds, wars, or confrontations that started over whatever. This ain't that. I'm not looking, and no one who is coming on this platform is looking to reignite old issues that may be unresolved in some dude's mind from some other set. All right, let's get that straight. This platform is to enlighten, man. It's to tell a story and allow the culture enthusiasts, the public, the people to see what we've been knowing. Hoover is a phenomenon. You have been, you are, you will be under the groove, man.